I think you should just hit, oh, there, you've done it. Okay, Dhruv is recording. Great. Okay, I'm gonna do the introductions quick, fast, and then we can jump straight into the conversation. So, Othnell, like I said to you on, we said, like we all discussed on over WhatsApp, this is Siyabonga Mthembu. He is the lead singer of The Brother Moves On, as well as Shabaka and the Ancestors. He's a phenomenal cultural practitioner and producer based in South Africa. And he is honoring us by being part of this conversation, and he's the first outside person to participate and just give us his insights and ask critical questions so that we can think about what this all meant, because it's been crazy. We've been like in the matrix through this whole process, and it feels really out of body, but at the same time, just listening through the SoundCloud today, I know that we've done some really meaningful work, and just as like foundational work, we've got a good grounding to do future things together, and it's been really, from my side, I know a great learning experience. So yeah, Sia, Othnell, I'm sure you've read about him on the website, and you know all about him, so I won't those it over
nice
to you, and we take it from there.
Okay. Evening, guys. Firstly, great work. At first, when I agreed, it was just really based on the personnel involved, because I have deep respect for the work that the Kinsmen have done. And I knew that it wouldn't be a project where I'd feel like I'm stuck in a space where I really don't enjoy the work and I'm trying to come up with questions and relations to it. And it went beyond that, in that you guys really together created a liminal space that's very interesting to deal with. And beyond that, apart as well, in the fact that you're all stuck in this pandemic situation. It changed it from being 3 people meeting 1 person, and it became all of you in very foreign spaces, which is something that's interesting to engage with intensely. Okay, so I have some questions. Some are directed at particular people, but feel free, if you're like, no, I feel this person would be better to answer this question, to say that. So it's not a dictation, right? So I've read the website, I've watched the videos, but in layman's terms, I think it would be interesting to hear each of you explain what the project is and what it's about. Should we start from Dhruv?
Sure, yeah. It started off, there was almost like a pre-project phase where this was not the intention at all. The intention was to travel to Madagascar at that point and collaborate with a musician there. The intention was to explore the sort of cultural heritage and the parallels between us and countries on the Eastern Shore. And we were really positive. Like, I think I was the most negative from day one in terms of this pandemic, because we were supposed to fly out on the mid-March or something like that, and it was just when lockdown had started. So I knew this sort of wasn't going to happen based on speaking to other people that could predict what the year looks like. But we went through this whole process of trying to find artists in various countries on the Eastern Shores. We had pinned down someone in Madagascar, and we built this excitement around that, and we're really keen to go and explore it. And then bam, the SAA canceled flights, and that's when things hit the fan. So
still don't have our money also. Just want to add that.
Waiting for them to go bankrupt so we can get 50 cents on the rand or something.
Rough out here, guys.
So I'd call it started off, this project specifically started off as probably a forced experiment for me. It wasn't something I was like really keen on doing because it was something being forced on us. It wasn't our choice. But then through like looking through various people, artist profiles, and like really reading Mangoma's profile specifically on, I think we had found Mangoma on the One Beats fellowship portal on the One Beats website. And just reading through that really started sparking interest. And then Mo came with this idea of a research project, which we've never explored before. What initially sounded like something that might just get archived and sit in some repository somewhere ended up being a fascinating learning experience. Not necessarily in the way that we would have together, where we would learn more about musical concepts and how we work together as people. But what we learned was how to still allow connection to happen over the screen, how to become a better listener. I think that's the biggest learning I've learned, especially this whole call and response sort of process that we followed. Forces you to listen, throws you out of your comfort zone, and just forces you to put your own thoughts aside sometimes and your own musical things that you want to say and listen to someone else very, very consciously. So it's been a really, really beautiful journey, and the product that's come out of this in the form of recordings, in the form of really in-depth conversations, wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this pandemic. So I'm not thanking the pandemic in any way, but I think we made really good use of this forced project. And I think as much as we've collaborated as Kinsmen, we were just talking about it now over the past 6 or so years, we haven't collaborated in this sense. Mo, Shailesh, and I have not met up during this period at all. I think, well, besides for the Brownswood recording, but not for this project. So we've learned a different aspect of each other through this project as well. So I wouldn't have it any other way if I have to go back and think what we could do differently. It's almost like what do we do next is like on my mind at the moment, because this time frame that we were given, I think we started in like September, October or something, is a really short time frame to have done this. There's been competing priorities in our lives and stuff. So there's so much that we still wanted to explore. If I go back to our initial project brief, to get to know each other better on a personal level and how we go about living our days and what food do we eat. And that's the kind of stuff we wanted to sort of mimic. We wanted to mimic a in-person experience, but virtually. But that evolved over time, and it ended up being this sort of call and response and action research kind of project. So I think there's quite a few aspects of it that still need to be explored, just without funding.
Great.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Let's go to Mangoma next.
Yeah, for me, it was like a project which came at a time where lots of things have been cancelled. And then it was, I can say it was a good way also for it to come during that time, since I wasn't that much busy. So at first, I wasn't very sure of what I was going to do. But as time went on, I started to like, when we had our first conversation, it was better because I knew how the guys had mapped the way for us to work. And then during the first recording, it was like someone started. I think it was
Dhruv.
It was
Dhruv started the first.
Dhruv who started. Yeah. And then next it was Shailesh, and then I came in third. So when I came in third, it was like what was I going to play? Because most of the time, like when I think, like when we do something which is more cultural, it's like my culture. It's not a culture of soloists most of the time. It's a culture of an ensemble. As a soloist, maybe sometimes you can thrive, but as an ensemble, you get to get the meaning of everything that gets to happen. So first when I responded, it was like as an ensemble, but I didn't know how. Like also, whenever I record, I always think of how am I going to perform this if given a chance to perform. So I just say, okay, let me do it. Well, if they get to be a chance to perform it, maybe I can work away of how to perform it, but maybe it's best maybe to respond with what's going in my heart. So also from that I learned a lesson, like most of the time when we have musicians, when we are together, sometimes we don't get to tell each other the truth, but most we don't lie in our art. So I managed to connect like more strongly because everyone was presenting their art, and then I go to say, okay, this person thinks this way, this person thinks this way, and then we're given like a chance for everyone to lead. Like the first project, it was Dhruv who led. The second project, it was myself who led, and then also there was a project which Mo led. There was a project also which Shailesh led. This Shailesh lead.
I got away. You exposed me. How could you expose me?
I got to see how someone leads. So I got to learn how someone was presenting an idea, and also that person also had a chance to respond. So it was more of okay, sometimes you don't have to start something and then impose to people, you have to do this to my project. It was like, okay, I've started this, how are you going to respond? And
Respond.
everyone was responding differently, and from each project, everyone was trying to to be different in each and every song that we did. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe this pushes me slightly ahead, which makes a lot of sense. Shailesh, could you give me a slight background to what a rag is?
Sorry, what's that? What was that?
What a background to what a rag is. So I know
Dhruv.
I knew you'd pass it to Dhruv, but Dhruv is why we went to you. We want to see if you were paying attention when all this was happening.
Were you in class?
Yeah, were you in class when Dhruv explained?
I was, but I was at the back, And
Dhruv explained what a rag is. Were you in class?
Look,
or was it one of those long days?
No, I can talk to it, and then I think Dhruv can give a bit more detail.
Cool, most definitely.
A rag is, historically a kind of a series of notes played at different times of day, depending on mood. And improvisation is around that mood, effectively. And so for me, from a percussive kind of state, I don't necessarily think about the notes, but I do definitely think about it from a feeling perspective. And I've always grappled with this. And in fact, if you Google it, you'll find the circle on the web with different times of day and different rags that should be played. And sometimes I found it odd, like I played during the middle of the day and I don't feel it. But there have been times when within ourselves where Dhruv's explained a rag that he wants to play, maybe during a jam session and the like, and it's probably sunset or sunrise. And I especially remember one day, it was, I think, 5:30 in the morning, Dhruv played a bit of a scary rag. And the feeling in the mood at that point was really intense. Like I could feel why we should play that rag at that time of the morning. It was, we were the only ones awake. It was dark outside. It was like kind of a scary movie. And so for me, a rag, yes, it's about musical notes and the like, and at different times of day. But for me, a huge thing is just about feeling. What does it feel like for you to play? And we've spoken about principles in the past and some of our history and history staying the way it has. But I do believe that sometimes those things have the chance and the perception to change because our moods are changing, our feelings are changing, and what I felt or what I would have felt like 5 o'clock in the morning 100 years ago versus what I could feel like 5 o'clock in the morning today is very different. So perhaps we need to start reinventing different forms of rags that are allowance for today's day and age.
That's really nice. Mo, do you want to maybe take on and explaining to us, does a rag belong to a particular religious space, a particular sect, a particular identity in relation, or where would one, if one was wanting to search more of this understanding of what a rag is? And also it does resonate in a lot of other cultures as well, but it's I don't think it's particularly about that. I'm saying for you particularly, where do you feel that it originates from?
So are you asking about the history in like a historical sense?
Yeah, like in a historical sense. So like my next question would be about Mbende, and I want to get sort of like the cultural and historical relation to that. So in the same space for someone who'd be reading this for the first time, if they wanted to know about a rag, where would you point them towards? Where's the historical space to you? It's, of course, we don't live in a universe where you're the originator of knowledge, but it's more pointing, it's more pointing like-minded minds and souls towards where they should find literature and sound about this.
Of course, I mean, I think rag and so they are, there's North Indian classical music and South Indian classical music, but I think that they actually share the system of rag. Dhruv, am I correct in that? The rhythmic system is different. So it is a musical form harmonically and melodically that belongs to the Indian subcontinent in a way and originates from there. It isn't particular to religion, although it does have religious origins. But I think over time, yes, Dhruv, just keep nodding. You're helping me, man. You're helping me so much with your nods.
They were listening, Dhruv. They were listening, Dhruv.
Just keep nodding, bro. But as you know, over time, India was inhabited by many different people. You know, there was a Mughal empire, which was a Muslim empire, and rags were played in the courts of these emperors and so forth. And then there was the English colonization of India much later. But rags have remained part of the language structure of the music on that subcontinent. And so my introduction here in South Africa was through Dhruv. But also through Indian classical music concerts that get presented in South Africa in a way that I don't enjoy, because it's a very sort of what's the word, like a conventional, like pastiche, not pastiche, like I don't know what the word is, but it's like a a very conservative way. Yeah, a very conservative way. But that was my introduction here, going to those kinds of concerts and seeing rags being performed by masters, because to become a master in Indian classical music, you study under a guru, and it takes a long time. And those masters eventually get to perform in spaces across the world. And we also attended a festival, Dhruv, Shailesh, and I, and a few other friends. When we kicked off this project, Dhruv suggested, let's go to England, to London, and attend Darbar Festival, which is the biggest Indian classical music festival outside of India. And we went there, and I must be honest, I skipped out a lot and went to tour the city. But the shows that I did attend were a great introduction to rag as a harmonic and a melodic sound structure. And I think if you need more specific resources, Dhruv's the person. So, and I think maybe another point is, myself as a saxophone player, schooled in the Western canon of music. So like, you know, the, what is it called? The tempered scale, Western tempered scale, and functional harmony and so forth. I don't mimic an understanding of rag because I know how much study it takes. And I think when I see Dhruv's humility in his approach to it, it scares me even more. I don't pretend to know anything about it, and I don't try to play rags on the saxophone at all. I come from my understanding, and I see where we can meet authentically, where those things overlap.
Okay, no, we're gonna get to that. That's where we're leading to. Don't worry. Dhruv, great work. Shailesh, great answer. See, the class is there. Mangoma, I would pick out your bandmates if they were here to explain Mbende, but they're not here because they're all with you. They travel with you, but they're not here to tease. They're not that kind of friend. So please, brother, if you could just let us in to know what Mbende is. I heard you speak of it. It resonated heavily with a lot of what is Southern African music of Black origin and its relations. But let me let you speak, brother.
Okay, I would say Bede is from Zezuru speaking people. So Zezuru speaking people are close to the capital of Zimbabwe, are close to Harare, in Murewa, in Muedza, and so Bede being one of Zimbabwe's intangible heritage, it was given by the UNESCO. So you will see that a lot of rhythms, like maybe we share maybe rhythms with Mozambique, we share rhythms with also South Africa, with Zambia, with Malawi, but with Bede, it's more like you find it in Zimbabwe. You won't find it maybe anywhere else. But it is maybe elements like if we take maybe the elements of claves that maybe the South Americans use, but they've got maybe I can say close to 5 main claves running concurrently. So it's like maybe like when we make our music, it's like we are having a dialogue, but everyone is speaking, but we are speaking at the same time, but also listening to what we are speaking. So it's like even our yeah, I don't know how I can say that, but it's like how we play Mbira. It's like someone maybe we don't have harmonies, but we have maybe someone coming with melodies, but those melodies running concurrently. I can say maybe I can give an illustration, maybe say we have something like maybe someone is saying, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I did it. Someone is saying, did it. Did. So it's the same thing that we use also even in our rhythm. So maybe it's like those claves come from what we call makwa. Makwa is like clappers. So the first clapper, I can say maybe if I'm explaining it in a Western way, I can say the first one is like a clave which goes ta 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 ta, which is like I can say what's this name of the clave? It's cascara, but a cascara which is inverted, and then the second person is going to come and play the 1E, 1E, 1E. So the other one is going to play Eda, Eda. So those three will play ka 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 ta ta ka ta 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 ta. And then the fourth person is going to harmonize what the first person was doing, but like making another pattern which is starting on a different starting point, but using the same articulation. And then the fourth one will do the same, the fifth one. So it's like maybe if it's 10 people, they're going to have their voices there, but different claves. So if you attend like bede people playing, is like those makwa alone before the drums are enough.
Yeah.
And then the drummer will come with mainly 2 drums. And then from those 2 drums, it's like these tall drums called muitumba. So those 2 drums, you can create patterns, which you can also then orchestrate even up to 10 or 12 drums. So if you go in places like Murewa, you see someone putting a whole array of drums, maybe 12 or maybe even more, and then they'll be playing through that through those drums. So it's like whenever there's this 16 beats and then a silence also for 18 beats, and then 16 beats, sometimes 24. So during those 16 beats when we play, it's like we play easy, and then there's another rhythm which just goes maybe everything comes there, and then it's like having a dynamic. Everyone plays, and then it just remains voices, shakers, and a rhythm which is just on a low dynamic, and then it keeps on going like that. But whenever there is that moment of tension, the drama intensifies it differently. So those drums will help to give the mood. So sometimes the drama can run across the whole set, up or down, or can just be on maybe 3 or 4 drums, but it depends with the drama. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can I just also just say something there? I think what I really liked about the BandLab kind of project that we did here is Othnell brought in that element of multidimensional, that element of the ensemble to the recording. So, initially I expected one track from one instrument from Othnell, be it a different instrument. But what we quickly realized is that there's this whole dimension that Othnell brings into the track, and it's because of that ensemble. And then I think what it did, it also sparked the three of us as Kinsmen to think and do something else. So Dhruv came in later on with the flute, and Mo, and I think also he brought the tampura as a rhythmic instrument. Mo at some point was clapping and was bringing in shakers. I was also, instead of just tablas, I was using clapping as well. So I think it's so important that it's almost like sparked this energy of an ensemble, which we never really thought about before, or it was never so prominent really.
Would it have something to do, because even in the project beginning, it was a need to search internally to those who would have been indentured down the coastal line in essence, and thus search for that is the identity meeting point. Then COVID brings you back to having to find this meeting point within this Southern African region that may have countries, but our cultures and our tribes stretch across borders and into spaces. So as they're indentured in a Black consciousness way, it's now making you deal with the fact that you occupy the space. So in a weird space, it's even in how you explain how Mangoma brought in the ensemble. You already, the three of you, thought of yourselves not already as ensemble work in your relation, because the music is thought to be classical first before it is what the value it has as a rag does to a certain community and how it lives in the utility of the music than simply just when it's presented to people. So it leads me to my next question of would the meeting point have been in all we do in music, when you apply for something, the language we're talking to each other in to meet each other at a point, would the meeting point have been the Western discourse in which Mo says that's where his learning curve have been? And somehow in that meeting point, because you've brought different cultural context, and Mangoma opens the gates of the dimensions of the fact that we don't travel alone, but we travel as ensemble. That is what this land we live in asks of us whenever we bring music to people. It's never ever a soloist, it's you are with your people. Even if you're singing a solo and you don't understand it, it's actually you singing with your people. So I as an external, have always seen your music as that. So I've never ever placed it in classical or jazz music. But now I want to understand, when the four of you met, what would you say would have been the meeting point? Because I see it, but I don't want to allude to it. And so I'd rather have you guys speak about it.
Let me just go first. I think it's quite an exciting thing. I like this. I like this topic a lot. So I think what was really interesting about this, Sia, is that the meeting point, depending on who started the BandLab online collaboration. So I'm almost saying to you, there isn't really a meeting point. Yes, we've got some guidance from, or there isn't one set meeting point. So we've got guidance from whoever starts the track. But if you listen to the way the A track started and then the way it actually ends up, it isn't on any of the meeting points for me. And so that's why I think it goes back to your point about, being from the subcontinent and adapting to our situations. And I have said this to Dhruv and Mo before, yes, we play instruments from the Indian subcontinent, but we don't, or I speak for myself, but I don't necessarily play like those guys in India. I play it with a context of an identity outside of India and in South Africa. So it's my interpretation of the instrument. And that's why I think this project has become our interpretation of the music. I don't really see it as one or the other. So would like to hear the other views as well.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, if you've said it really beautifully, I agree fully that there is not a meeting point. There are meeting points, you know, and there are moments, I like to think of them as tangents, you know, there are moments when we just touch each other and we keep touching each other and we keep touching each other. And then, like, it's so fascinating. For that last track, for instance, I just put down like a motif. And that thing like loops and goes on. And I picked up a lot of like almost generous ways to bring people in. And I learned that from Mangoma, because in his second recording, he did that. He had this chorus that kept coming up. It kept coming up. And it was like to say, hey guys, here's the thing. Come and play music. Come, let's be together. We're together here, you know, and then we go and explore. And so when I tried this kind of approach in the last one, at one moment, Shailesh and Mangoma, I mean, they're in different spaces, happening at different times. This whole thing is asynchronous. But at one moment, like this whole rhythmic thing is going on that is like, it's phenomenal. And I mean, there's no shared language for that. They didn't decide, oh, we're going to play 16 measures of this and we're going to play, you know, this is what the clave is going to be. And so that conversation didn't happen. It just emerged, you know, it emerges from, what is weird is that we're not in the same place, but we are in the same place, you know, and it emerges from that proximity, I think.
Dhruv, Mangoma, anyone? Okay, Dhruv.
Yeah, just building on what Mo was saying, those meeting points weren't decided upfront. They were like common tools that we started with. So we had BandLab as a tool, we had rhythm, we had melody. Those are common like concepts that we all understand. We had a metronome. It was the pandemic. So there were like common things that brought us together. But those parallels in our cultures and why we play what we do, or why we play what we play and what the purpose behind it is came forth like as late in the last conversation we had about like 2 weeks ago. Things like how the music is taught, how Mangoma brings the cultural way of teaching music, building his own instruments, how he teaches his own kids, how it's like within the family. Those concepts became parallels for me in Indian classical music, and that became meeting points, I guess you could call them. How the music is performed, like the whole concept of an ensemble, the purpose behind music, like Indian classical music had a purpose of like a spiritual sense. Mangoma brought in the concept of spirit mediums in the last conversation. So we didn't start off with like, this is the objective and this is the goal that we need to get to. Let's go towards it. It's like a blank canvas, and things came together so nicely. I still don't understand a fraction of either Mo's music or Mangoma's music. But that 1% that I do understand, I found so many commonalities in there that allowed us to communicate non-verbally, which I found fascinating.
Mangoma? Oh, you're still muted, brother.
So, like listening to how Dhruv explained the rag, it's like how Bira music is. Like when we play Bira music, we know there are songs for maybe for hunters. There are songs for those with Maymed spirits. There are songs for like our ancestors, maybe lineage. And so those songs are not just brought in at any time. So we know maybe if we are starting maybe a ceremony, we are going to play, maybe if it's an all-night ceremony, we know maybe the first song that you are going to play, it's a song of that person, like the owner of the ceremony who's holding the ceremony. they talk, we love this song because it's a song which represents us as a clan or as a tribe or as a lineage. So after playing that, we know maybe we are going to play Nemamsasa or Karikamombe. Karikamombe is usually the first song that someone learns, or it's the first song that we play also. So this Karikamombe means holding a ball and strangling it down, which means also that we are about to do something which is big. We are about to stay up all night. So we are like imitating, we are like holding the ball and putting it down. So we know the songs that we play throughout the night. Maybe we know around 3 a.m. we are going to play we are going to play Madendera, which also represents that time of the morning. So it's like even when we play Bira, it's like sometimes you play a song and then it doesn't feel like it, or even the people do not enjoy that song. But if you go through, I think it's the same thing. That's where we get the commonalities, that they are gurus in India, and also in our music. You get a teacher, a Bira teacher. You bring a goat for him to teach you, and then that if that goat has children, or yes, you keep on giving, you share the meat together. It can be maybe a whole crawl of the animals, but you consider that person as your teacher, and then that person is the one who's going to teach you, this song is played during this time, this song is played. So there are commonalities, sometimes not known, and also maybe, as for us, like Zimbabwe, not documented.
Yeah.
But there will be commonalities, and also maybe uh, same sense of why make that music. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I want to now take that to Dhruv and that same emotion and space to be like the first call and response. You guys speak of it as being feminine. There's this just relation to it as the feminine, and it was something very interesting to relate to, based on just the stylistics of even recording. So Mangoma's space of recording was not the isolated Western discourse of ensuring that we've got all quiet. You could hear the children, you could hear the living space around the music, in essence. And the feminine has this relation to the music, where the music is about utility. It's not about us selling the music, it's about what we use the music for, which is what Mangoma is talking about in relation to what time you do the song, where you do the song, how you get taught, and the traditions that come with the song, in essence. Coming in contact with just this relation of how to record, and how recording is not an extraction in the Western way, has that affected the trio as Kinsmen in any way? And have we started also maybe considering the feminine as the private space, and the private as public, in essence? So in as much as we're in the private realm, and everyone has always thought the feminine is the female, the kitchen, the the feminine is the home, is where everyone's allowed to be, where we find that balance with the masculine outside. How with all these themes that are going in hand, I don't think I have a particular question. I just want to know, how have all these theories interacted with you? One, as musicians who've gone through a process of recording in a commercial sense in the South African space, and two, as men who realize that in essence, what Corona's brought us into is to realize that the public and private is not as simple as outside and inside. You know?
Yeah, you said so many things that are more answers than questions. It's just making me reflect on some things. Before we started recording this call, we were talking about this, the whole Trump situation and whatever, with the inauguration and things. Someone gave me a different perspective of that this pandemic and this whole phase that we've gone through, like in the past 4 years, has been so necessary, because there's been so many things that have been pushed under the carpet or shoved in the back of people's minds in that dark corner that no one really goes into, that are coming to the fore now. So I think with that feminine sort of energy that you're speaking of, it's probably something I've personally struggled with through in growing up. It's the concept of a masculine sort of figure that supposedly all males are meant to look up to. And my what I call it religion, my spiritual inclination towards understanding these things differently has helped me understand that that's not how it should be. And if you think of there's this definition of a rag in Sanskrit that says Ranja Yate Iti Raga, which means a rag is that which colors the mind. And how do you define your mind in the sense of age, gender, height, skin tone, those kinds of things? There's so many different colors and an array of different shades that are here in our world to be experienced. Why we restrict ourselves to certain spectrum of, or rather a certain area of that spectrum, is something I've tried to question, and my music has really helped me. With every single rag, it comes with a specific emotion, and you'll find a lot of emotions that you explore in a rag, and sort of areas of your dark closet at the back of your mind that you explore are not things that are mainstream in the understanding of what is masculine. So I didn't do that consciously with that first piece. It just so happened that that sort of melody or whatever was churning through my head at that point in time. But reflecting on it, Shailesh brought up the whole concept of like gender-based violence and things that we're experiencing at the moment, and how it was so interesting that four males are sort of exploring this feminine energy. So yeah, I think it's brought forward a lot of things that should have been spoken about before, that should have been questioned, and it's just brought it to the surface now. And that's why some people are experiencing a whole lot of uncertainty and fear and whatever. But if you look at it from like 10 million steps back, and you look at this entire timescale of humanity, this is like an amazing period to be living in, because we are allowed to have these kinds of conversations, and I don't anymore feel shy to talk about these kinds of things that I would have typically like 10 years ago. It's probably the best time to be living, if not anything else.
Yeah. Sad it doesn't feel like it, but I totally agree with you. Anyone else want to pick up on this idea of the feminine, the European way of, well, it's sad to call it European. I'd rather like to call it the Atlantic way of recording music, and how it's an isolation. It's a removal from. So like the beauty of that first piece is, in as much as it's call and response, if I hadn't read that it was call and response, it sounds like ensemble work. It sounds like a group of people in a room together making music together. I can hear everything. Nothing's been removed. It feels like I wish I was there in that space. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And it's only in reading that I get that it's call and response. But I think it's that's the inclusiveness of the feminine. It allows it all to come out. Whereas in the masculine realm, you have to keep it tight. It has very particular ways it has to be. But maybe to move then to the second track, where I think it was Mangoma who started the track, right? If I'm right, yeah. There was a different feeling here, and I'd love to maybe have one of you into it rather than me giving some perspective and grounding to go for it. How would you say the feeling was different? What was the relation? Because then I can relate to that.
Yeah, I struggle to put these kinds of things into words and to actually unearth the emotive side of things. I've sort of been journeying along between these two realms, between the realm of like Mangoma's relation to music and relation to music and emotion, and Dhruv's relation to music and emotion. I think the second track, what was really powerful for me there was a generosity to that, to the way he initiated that, and I touched on that earlier before. So I don't think the energy, I think it was more assertive as a piece, because we had figured out what we were doing in a way. We had figured out the tools, and we figured out how to navigate the tools and so forth. And there was an assertiveness and a clarity to it that came through. But with that, there was still a real generosity. So even though someone was putting out, Mangoma in this case, was putting out something for us to respond to, it's as if he was anticipating the spaces that we would respond in, and how we might respond, and how we might complement that. But at the same time, it's very big and full. So I think that's the track where you have Ngororombe. There's like 3 voices on that track. I think there's Mbira as well. I can't remember now. And Mangoma like colors all of these things in a way that's knitted together as an ensemble, very, very seamlessly, that presents it like a very strong statement and a very clear direction. But at the same time maintains a generosity. So it's not consuming space, which, just to build on the point previously, is very different to a conventional recording setup where you have limited time because you're going into studio and you're paying lots of money for it. Someone's got a creative direction, there's a producer, someone's funding it, like there are all these mandates to meet. And it also, like, the beautiful thing about this project is that it collapses the relationship between the stage and the bedroom, which is where I work. I work in the bedroom, like there's no variation. So from waking up in the morning to sitting down and listening to something or playing my horn, I can't put on that mask, it's not, there's just no space for that anymore.
I think it lies for me in the space of, so Dhruv had this expression that he had explained about his track, where he put out the call and he had expectations on the response. Do you know what I'm saying? And as further as the track went, it moved away from where he thought it would be, you know, and became the something else, right? But now when I have to describe the second track by Mangoma, he generously opened the space. Once again, we're dealing with these things of these moments and gaps. I think, as you've said it just now, is that it's almost as if he's anticipating your relation to them. So in as much as you're like, that one was fuller, it feels like you filled the anticipated gaps. It's not to say that the track doesn't pop and it doesn't make what it needs to do, but it goes, the challenge, the generosity that Mangoma offered in the first instance, where he came in and he was like, this is all I'm hearing. And you know what I'm saying? There is, and it's an orientation based on how we record here in South Africa, where music happens, the utility of music again comes back into play. So where we end up trying to fill in the gaps because we're not sure if we're allowed to play all we're hearing, and the generosity starts to overwhelm us. In Mangoma's space, when he related to that same space of being offered something, he generously said, these are the frequencies going through me. So as a listener, hearing the first one to hearing the second one, I hear fullness in the first one, based on that act of generosity, not being afraid to be like, who owns the space of creativity in the relation, and to be like, this is all I'm hearing in relation. Whereas in the second one, I hear an almost a carefulness about filling the gaps as Dhruv wanted in when he put out his call in that first space. You know what I'm saying? I feel you guys nearly coming out of it, but like fully like just filling the gaps of what you're thinking Mangoma wants you to anticipate and relate to. In essence, he's brought his people. So the whole point was
there's almost a self-consciousness
to
that second one. I agree with that. Like there's there's a self-consciousness because like, oh, we got this thing now, this is the recipe, you know, this is how this whole thing works. Where the naivety and the blind faith of the first one allows it to be more honest and allows it to be more truthful in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was like the interest. Shailesh?
So Mangoma's track, I mean, I don't obviously understand the full cultural aspects of what he's put on the table, but it always feels very real to me. The track feels very family. It feels like there's children outside. It feels like there's people eating together. We're on the table. We're in the lounge. That's how it feels for me. And the way it almost feels like when you were explaining it now, the way we approached it was very similar in the sense that in a such situation or setting where you've got a lot of people and your family's there, you're not always talking all the time. You sit back, you let someone else speak, you let someone else talk, then you get in there, you talk, you're on top of the game, and maybe sometimes you're losing the argument or the conversation. And so it feels like, yes, we didn't have the surprise element of the first track, but for me, that whole interaction of a dialogue between people and between a family setting, between lots of people, feels like it came through in that track a bit more, purely because he gave us that space or the opportunity to either speak or not speak. You decide, like you would in any setting.
Can I ask, Shailesh, might it not be the fact that we come from very conservative ideas of how people speak and how families relate? Because Mangoma was explaining Mpende to all of us and how the many voices are speaking. We're all speaking at different cadences, rhythms, relations, but we can hear and talk at the very same time. So it's not to say it is a bad or a good way. It's just to say, as an outside observer, I'm able to notice South African conservatisms that I never like. They're even within my understandings from, and we've both been colonized by the same queen, but the play out of what is allowed to be utility in art in South Africa has a lot of times been eroded to by the commercial sense. So we do the first track, we're like, oh, we found the ingredients. And we go into the second track with the ingredients. Whereas Mangoma has already alluded to us. There's songs for when, there's songs for what, there's, you know, there's songs for who. We haven't, as South African makers, a lot of times interrogated that spiritual space for ourselves because of the commercial in our music, in essence. So it's only like an observation, not really something that has a point out of it. Let me go back to the book.
But also, I think one more point on that. Yeah, like I think that's one of the things I feel very strongly inept at because of my musical education. You know, because I think the Western system erases that. Like it erases all context. You know, it erases utility. It's all about like, and especially in the jazz space, it's all about chops. You know, like. And I think when you approach it that way, and when you've been like trained or create expectations of yourself, and I think it's a very masculine thing as well, to create those expectations of technical virtuosity or individualized like shining brilliance. I think what you're pointing out as a reality is really true of my experience also because of the conditioned ways that I'm interpreting and using music from my side. And I felt that throughout this process.
Thanks. That share is very important in us realizing. It's also just in the call and response as a choice, gents. The call and response is binary. It's dialectic in essence. I want to ask, we already started to speak about this and how music has realms and it's not just the dialectic of 1 or 0. But I want to ask in that space, the future of like music from here, music from the soil we do, and this relation to this dialectic of call and response of where is the beginning, who starts, and what are we all relating to? It's, you know, the movement away from two to the many. how do you see this finding a way into our future making and your future making together? Because as you've acknowledged now, it's not four people involved in this, it's energies involved in the exchange. So it's a hard question. I'm asking you for where is your beginning when I'm already asking for a consciousness that's beyond where is beginning and end, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
So I want to start with Mangoma on this one.
Okay, yeah, it's a difficult one for me. I can say the beginning is like what we have learned, and maybe the direction that maybe like for me that I would take is curiosity, how it matches with other people's with the rest of the Kinsmen guys, how it will match what I have and my curiosity and also my spontaneity and also maybe I can say maybe a bit to learn more, a bit to experience a different feeling. Yeah.
Can I ask now, with the beginnings of this project, what was that curiosity when you started, and where is that curiosity now?
I can say when I started it was sort of shady because I didn't know maybe if my response how my response was going to be taken. But I figured through the process how everyone's response matters, and also working with Kinsmen, I've seen that um, there's been this enhancement of listening, enhancement of also presenting. So I can say, now the curiosity is even more because I've seen, okay, we have recorded. What if maybe we are going to perform? What more can I bring? If there's need to perform, how am I going to present the audience? Or how, even if there's no ensemble music, how is it going to be effective? Yeah.
And then the question is, did anyone else sing beyond Mango? No?
I did track something. It got lost somewhere at one point.
Did you sing?
Mangoma,
Mangoma, your thoughts on this, on singing and instrumentation, and how, because there was, I remember one person in the group speaking of like the sa of singing, the issue that we would tune to the sa of the vocalist. Yet it's very interesting that I find it even in the bands that I play with, instrumentalists realize the power of singing, yet they themselves do not sing. And the shining excuse is that I don't know how to sing. And I always will follow that with an anecdotal where Louis Armstrong meets Hugh Masekela. Hugh Masekela thanks him for the horn that he was given by Father Trevor Huddleston, and says, "Look, this is why I made it. You gave me this horn." And then Louis Armstrong asks you, "So do you sing?" And she was like, nah, I don't have a nice voice. And Louis Armstrong's like, have you heard me sing? So in the same basis of asking, the vocality of this project, it rests in Mangoma space, right? Is there a reason for this? If so, in going forward, what is the relation to this idea of all of us singing? Because in essence, Umangoma is hearing his people sing. And I feel that we all hear our people sing, you know. So I leave it as a ellipsis dot and a question at that point.
But Sia, have you heard me sing?
Well played. Well played.
That's all I
have. Well, you're helping the guys out of a tough moment. Everyone's just like, come on, dog. Why wasn't us just singing?
Mangoma, do you want to go? I wanted to say
Okay, go.
I did track something. It got lost, so then I thought people didn't like it, and it got deleted off the file.
Hey,
and then I got
Beyonce,
I got self-conscious, and then I was like, "Peace."
We're not there. Beyonce, we are not there. Mangoma, please take over from Beyonce. Beyonce is still telling us something we know.
but Mo, where did you? Was it on the last track?
On the first track, man.
I remember
Mangoma
you
knows.
saying. I remember you saying you sang something,
Yeah,
but then I thought I misheard.
These are your friends.
I'm gonna check the trash can on Bandland.
Yes, I'm gonna go check the track now. Sorry, dude, completely missed that one.
Mangoma, you were gonna say?
I was going to say, for music making, most of the time is like maybe two-way. There's this maybe I will take maybe Bira as an example. There are these songs from Bira that we play to maybe the songs that were made by instrumentalists. So these are like these songs that you see the instrumentalist, maybe they won't have any vocal hook. It will be something maybe which is just instrumental, and all the vocalists maybe come with their feeling. And then there's these songs which were made by vocalists, which maybe even the instruments like the melody will be following that vocal melody, or following maybe what the women sing. So it's two ways. Sometimes maybe what makes me sing is like maybe I'm hearing it from a perspective of the singer, not from a perspective of the instrumentalist. Yeah. So maybe you find that maybe music from the instrumentalists is more stronger instrumental, like instrumentically. I don't know if there's such a word. And of the vocalist, maybe it's like most like when you're in an ensemble, everyone is singing. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm ready to close with your statements and ask you guys to make comment on that. Each of you, there's 4 of them. Yeah? You guys say on the site, the outcomes are research exchange dialogue that
Sorry, we can't hear you, Sia.
Sorry, you guys say on your website, through a series of action, research, exchange, dialogue that transact digitally across space, place, and time, we ask, what if this picture becomes a story, a moment, was a place, a sound, a journey, and song? So I'll start with Dhruv, the first person to initiate, right? What did the picture become?
I'll quote Mo from something he said like 2 or 3 years ago when we were performing in Cape Town at some point. For me, it became a conversation between 4 people who didn't have many commonalities in terms of our day-to-day lives, but we really liked each other and we wanted to talk to each other. So we just kept talking in different ways, using different instruments, and we just kept on doing that until there was some sort of output that made sense. But we still don't understand each other, but we like talking. And for me, that's what I've taken out of this is I love listening. I'm going to continue doing that after this more consciously than I've done before. So it's this picture of actual picture of 4 people sitting around a fire and talking to each other in different languages, and somehow picking up on some nuances that make sense and misinterpreting the rest, and we're okay with that.
It's great. It's great. Okay. What are the territories of our shared landscapes, and how do we share it? So I'll give this to Mo, because it's obvious that he's the university writer of this website here. So let's chuck it at him, because he's good at writing the proposals.
True that.
Yeah. Now we busted it. Through a series of action, research, exchange, dialogues that transact digitally across space, place, and time, we ask, what are the territories of our shared landscapes, and how do we share? So what were the territories of your shared landscapes? We know the how you shared, because we've had a long conversation about that, but what become the ideologue territories of your shared landscape, beyond the fact of sharing the South African democratic region? Funny wording for what's happening at home. But beyond sharing a landscape, what are the shared territories?
I think that there are shared territories that are spiritual. There are shared territories that are emotional. There are shared territories that are historical as well, just in terms of ways of communication, and to build on Dhruv's, image of people sitting around fire, not necessarily understanding each other, but really liking each other, and really wanting to like each other, wanting to be there with each other. That shared territory is not a shared territory in the way we understand territory, that we mark it out on a landscape, like from this mountain to this mountain, this is the territory. It's not like that. It's not tied to geography. It's not tied to, I would say it's not even tied to history, really. It's tied to a series of moments. It's tied to intention. And that's a spiritual thing. Yeah.
Dope. That's dope. That wasn't university at all. Thanks. This moves to Shailesh. What stories do we have to tell each other? Was one of the outcomes questions. In this exchange for you, what's a story that sticks out?
Yeah, I think one that really sticks out for me is that of bringing together a group of minds, bringing together a group of personalities, bringing together music onto an unknown platform initially, then became a known platform, and something that, if we think about now, not necessarily sure what that platform will become. And so that theme of adaptability, fluidity, always changing, whether it's in your music, whether it's in your life, and this whole COVID situation has taught us exactly that. That's something that's a big story that will stand out for me. I mean, in a few years' time, I can tell someone a story about how I had this amazing experience with 3 other artists, but we were never physically present, not once in 8 months. Like, that's really
Yeah. Mangoma, my brother, in closing, there's an idea of home that resonates through the whole project. And home not being the nation state, not being South Africa, not being Zimbabwe, not being Mozambique. In the traditions you've been taught about this music from home, what do you think is a vital lesson that has been learned here, and one that you think should be remembered in relating to music and relating to hearing and listening to music?
Yeah, I can say when we say home as musicians, home is music, because music maybe most of the times is something maybe that we dance to, something that we pass time listening to. But most of the times, it's, to me, I like from this project, I've seen that it's something that binds people. Yeah, without lots of words, but just it playing and how we respond to it and how it takes its shape. And also after maybe if we say maybe we have a conversation, it's better maybe this conversation is recorded. Most of the conversations aren't recorded. We just speak and it's something that goes into the air. But maybe with the music which was recorded, it will be something that will stay for many years. And also looking at the geographically, that someone was in South Africa, someone was in Zimbabwe, also in South Africa in different places, but making something which shows maybe unity of purpose, also showing maybe I can say also having a goal, but not really imposing how it should take shape, but still having shape, still having a good shape. So I can say from this experience, uh, I've learned to value music even more, because it has brought me in spaces with people uh, we have met, even the way that I think, the way that I present myself, the way that I listen, and yes.
Guys, purpose and intention. Very, very, very nice way to end it, because your work reads really well in that way. The purpose and intention of sharing and finding one space and not the only space, but the space of sharing what is home, sharing what is sharing what is having patience for other people to make with. I want to thank you for allowing me to have access to this project and to this process, and allowing me to use my journal degree one last time before I pass away. So I really appreciate that very, very much. Thanks, guys. That's me.
Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. This has been so valuable to have you, and we are honored to have you participate in the conversation. And from my side, I just want to say, I hope we continue this dialogue. I hope we take this music into other places. And I hope we find new ways to create territory.
Yeah. And also, Khonsi Mahene needs to be part of the situation with you guys. It's just the gods telling me this throughout this whole process. It's just between Shailesh, Mangoma, and Khonsi will add that third percussive dimension to where you're going. And it's a very interesting space you're going to. You must realize it's not a space we've been to. So even listening to the music and engaging in it, it was not a meeting of cultures. No, it was a new space, a new liminal space to go to. And that's the beauty of music, is that within each of us, it allows other tribes to be created, kingdoms in the sky. So really appreciate that, guys. Great work.
Thank you, Sia. It's been really great having you reaffirm some of the things we've been thinking, but not too sure of, and experience some anxiety in this process of we don't know where we're going. So I think you've made a lot of what we've done clearer to us, and that's really, we're grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Sia. Really appreciate it. And thank you, guys. I think it was
my pleasure. Mangoma, you are a wealth of knowledge, my brother. Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Thank you so much.
Yo, my brother. What a graceful meeting. Thank you all, yeah?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. We'll chat soon.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Ciao.